Wes Olszewski, author of 17 books on Great Lakes maritime history and shipwrecks. And this is another episode of Ghost Ships, Gales, and Forgotten Tales. This is part one of this particular episode. You know, as a author of all these books about Great Lakes maritime history, sometimes I find that there's a perk that I get to go places and see things that most people don't get to see. Such a case took place in August of 2001. I was along on a documentary shoot as their guide and advisor, and we got to go aboard the dead cement boat J.B. Ford that was laid up in Superior, Wisconsin. We got to look at the entire vessel. I photographed it from stem to stern, all over inside. There are a lot of artifacts laying around. We didn't take any, but, well, okay, I took one. I took this mug. So what you're going to see here today are my photographs from on board the J.B. Ford. And before you get going on that, I'd suggest you go down and subscribe to this site. So here we go. On board the J.B. Ford, Part 1. Launched on Saturday, December 13th, 1903, the lake boat, which would later become the J.B. Ford, was originally christened Edwin F. Holmes. Miss A.E. Hoggood christened the boat at Lorain, Ohio, in the shipyard of the American Shipbuilding Company. Her first captain was someone who would become infamous just 9 seasons later. He was Jimmy Owen, and he would guide the 550-footer Henry B. Smith onto an enraged Lake Superior at the peak of the Great Storm of 1913. That boat would remain missing for 100 years. Witnesses stated that the Smith, with a full load of iron ore, left the harbor with most of her hatches still open. At 440 feet in length, 50 feet in beam, and 28 feet in depth, the Holmes was nowhere near being the largest boat on the lakes. Her lines were those that would become common among ore boats. Oddly, she was mistakenly thought to be among the more than a dozen boats lost in the Great Storm of 1913. That was because one of her life rings washed up on the Canadian shore of Lake Huron. At the time, she was in port at Milwaukee on Lake Michigan. In 1915, the Holmes was sold to the Pittsburgh Steamship Company and named E.C. Collins. Prior to World War II, she was transferred to the Kinsman Fleet. In 1959, she was taken to Sturgeon Bay and converted to a powdered cement carrier and renamed the J.B. Ford. I got acquainted with her when she ran for the Huron Cement Company. The Ford often visited Huron Cement's 6th Street dock in Carlton, Michigan, not far from my home. In the mid-1980s, she made her final trip up the Saginaw River and then quietly sailed away. Engine issues and her pending 1989 Coast Guard 5-year inspection caused her to be laid up as a storage vessel. We found her again in 2001 at the Lefarge dock in Duluth, Superior, serving as a transfer boat. Lefarge had granted our video crew access to the J.B. Ford, so, with an escort, we visited her. Considering that our visit took place when film cameras were still the best tool, I shot with this. It's a Mirai 35mm camera. That word, Mirai, is Japanese, and it means future. This camera is great because it uses a laser to focus, so you can get good images in a totally dark area. That would come in handy on the Ford. Yet please forgive any poor quality images. It's still film, and it was still processed by old-fashioned means. When we found her, the Ford was showing her age, although her pismo marks could still be read. Her once proud stack markings were gone. Her bow seems to enjoy the warm sunshine, like an old dog waiting to take a nap. Close up, we see the first place that all boat nuts want to visit, the pilot house. Like her fleet mate, the E.M. Ford, the J.B. has 2 different anchor houses. The way to get aboard is by rickety gangway. It is not for the meek. A couple of rusty steps, and we're aboard. From the outside, our pilot house looks like it's ready to go to work. My personal curiosity was this late edition map room. Here. Look closely and you can see her original pilot house's aft windows inside. How was this constructed? Getting up to the bridge wing by way of this dilapidated stairway is not going to happen. This one looks much better. The view is worth the climb. Superior Harbor. Now let's go inside. Through the screen door and around the corner. For those of you unfamiliar with this vessel, here's her bow. You are here. There were a lot of common objects that were left right where the crew last set them down. There's nothing like the romance of an old 1900s pilot house. The boat's wheel has been removed, but what appears to be her whistle pole remains. Her gyro compass repeater is still in place. These are her bow thruster controls. Her radio direction finder looks like it could still work. Her pilot house is lined with pine, especially the ceiling. And here is where her required documents were displayed. Yep, right on the ceiling. Past the ship's phone and into that map room. The dang thing is made out of plywood. It's the size of a walk-in closet, and it looks like a good gale or storm would blow it away. What a letdown. Watch for part 2 as we go deep inside the bow. Remember, use handrails.